Right, let's go. Welcome, Jay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Pleasure seeing you again, and again, congrats on the newborn, and thanks for
Thanks.
hopping on with us.
Hey,
So
pleasure to be here. Look forward to it.
Yay.
awesome. So we'll
Sorry I
start
couldn't get
off.
you guys up. Sorry I couldn't get you up water skiing a year ago. It still haunts
Yeah,
me.
I
I
was.
was gonna make a joke about that we had a lovely morning with you guys doing some early morning athletics, and Alex and I clearly didn't put our best foot forward because neither of us could stand up on the goddamn water skis. We'll go round two one day and we'll redeem ourselves.
Sounds
Yeah, I'm
good. I
not
don't know
gonna
if you
lie,
want to
Jay.
edit
That
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 out or
still
not. Or
haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
That still haunts me. I'm like, man, that like, was I even in
feel free to
sports or
edit.
anything?
Feel free to edit all of this out, right? So,
Just make ourselves look extra good.
Yeah,
All right.
trash at water skiing. Uh, so basically, I guess we'll start off with, could you just introduce a little bit about, your main business here? I know you have a few things going on just from what Des has kind of shared with us in terms of why he's chosen you as a prime mentor for him in his life. But I'd love to hear your perspective in terms of, the business that you guys have grown and who you're really targeting and who you're trying to reach.
yeah, you got it. So appreciate the opportunities to share this, right? So we're a financial education company. Basically, we just take personal finance and we try to make it as simple as possible. And we don't sell anything, so we're not like leading to some sale. We're essentially financial advice for people that's unbiased. And, from younger kids all the way up to adults is what we do.
Hmm. And you guys mainly deal in schools, right? Is that like your main kind of, I guess, business avatar, if you will,
You
or
got it. Yeah, it's our
customer?
top stream right now is schools, our schools. So as an example, the entire Alberta province, if you're in grade 10, you get Enriched Academy as part of your have to take it curriculum. So
Mm.
every grade 10 student in Alberta gets enriched. And then different schools will use this all the way down to grade 4 and then all the way up to university level and then even, beyond that. So, but yeah, within schools, school boards, provinces, across Canada is where we are now. And then also we're within companies and associations. So like RCMP, police officers, there's
Mm.
18,000 across Canada that get access to Enriched Academy as part of what they get for being an officer.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. I should ask my dad about that. My dad's an
See,
RCMP officer, actually.
Oh yeah, oh cool.
so you guys have kind of
Another
become like the gold star sticker of like financial education in Canada then.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and there's not a lot of folks in our space. I think a lot of people have tried to figure out how to monetize financial education, but it's been challenging, I think, for different companies. But also, usually when you get financial education right now, like if you watch TV still and you watch like normal, I don't not fewer people are doing this obviously, but you're watching kind of cable TV or something, there's still ads continuously about get financial advice and go here. Usually it's a bank.
Hmm.
And usually you're getting financial advice, but you're getting steered to products, right? So
Right,
the big difference is we're unbiased. And
right.
and we're also like, how do you make this actually interesting and not utterly devastating to learn? Because let's be honest, most financial education is horrifying to actually take
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
or
that's
go through.
actually that was like a really big reason why Des suggested he's like, "Oh, you guys should talk to Jay." And that was my first thought was that it seems like you guys are on kind of a similar mission with finance in that you're trying to provide people unbiased education and unbiased advice, but you're also trying to take this subject that a lot of people perceive as really dull and boring, much like we are with business content, and you're trying to make people excited about it and want to learn about it. So I kind of thought it was cool how parallel our visions are
Love
here.
it. Yeah, it's so important, right? Because otherwise, it's just not accessible to a lot of us. We just turn off mentally, and then we kind of stay where we are. And like, so how do you really create change? And that's
Yeah.
been like fundamental is trying to make this stuff simple.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even what you said there about unbiased information. I mean, we actually talked. We had met like a financial advisor, not like we didn't seek her out, but we had just like met her basically. And she was just kind of telling us like how she had worked at a bank for a long time, you know, years, and it's like they just sell you their plans, but when you actually go to a financial advisor who has access to multiple companies, they're trying to at least piece something together that works for you. And I was like, I never even thought about that actually. Like the banks really got a monopoly on this kind of stuff because they're like holding your money, and then they're like, oh no, this is totally the best thing for you. Like
it
crazy.
happens. Yeah, no question. It's probably like Canada has one of the highest fee structures in the world, in the developed world, for financial advisors. And there's like a grading system through something called Morningstar, and they grade all the different countries for how expensive financial advice is. And Canada is like the worst, one of the worst countries in the world. So yeah, and the banks are actually, because the banks are so strong here in Canada, they get so much of the business, and they have one of the highest fee structures that there exists out there.
Just bloated.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back to something you said, because for somebody who is a real business newbie, if they hear you say that you guys don't have like an end product that you're trying to sell, you're giving people a lot of free, unbiased information. So for somebody who doesn't understand how that works, then how do you guys then build this very successful company and make revenue to keep building?
Yeah, it's so key, I think, is the revenue piece, Kelsey. Like, I think really, really important. And like before, I'll use an example. So before we took this program on Dragon's Den back years ago in 2012, and got in front of 5 dragons, like Kevin O'Leary, it was one of them. Anyways, and we knew we needed to have revenue before we went on that show, because we saw too often people will go on there with just a concept that didn't have sales, and they would really have trouble getting funding. Like what business, what investors, let's call it, are interested in, if you can show them revenue, like here's how we can actually monetize this thing and it's proven, instantly you're way ahead. And so we, more or less, like we created back then, because DVDs were like, people weren't streaming this stuff back then. So it was like a DVD box that we created. So we filmed our education. We spent a lot of money on it at the time for us. Like it was a couple $100,000. But then we created these DVD boxes, and then we started selling them. And we were selling to parents. And so we would just get different speaking opportunities and use those to sell packages to people. And instantly we were generating revenue. So right away, like I think the first day we had our box, we generated like $20,000 in revenue, because we were speaking in front of mortgage brokers who bought our product as gifts for their clients. So
that's smart. Wow.
So right away we were making the cash register ring. That's my key point. And this was in 2011. I didn't leave my job until that I was doing at the time, which was another business that we were building, but I didn't leave that until 2017. So 6 years of making way beyond just the concept, way beyond making the cash register ring. 6 years after actually having steady sales before I left. So, and the reason for that is because I see what I see what happens to people when they jump out of something too quick and they think there are things ready, and it's not, and it's to lose that income is, very quickly we can run out of money, right? Then you can't do your idea, and it's or you have to shelve it or whatever else. So yeah.
Right. Wow. That's intense. How much do you feel like your split was between working the job you were at then versus building that company out?
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Like for us, we were refining the pitch for it. I guess you could. Excuse me. Let me just get some more. It was probably 5. I think what I committed to at the time was 5 hours a week. That was it. So I was working 50 or 60 hours a week at my job. So 5 hours was all I could commit.
Wow. Okay. And what was your role when you were building it out for those 5 hours? Was it major strategic direction, or just you were just focused on trying to help sales?
We were just trying to, at the time, actually just build out the content. What do we actually... So we were going to high schools, and we were presenting for free at high schools and interacting with kids. And we went from putting them to sleep, where they like, you're like a supply teacher, where they're like, this isn't going to be on a test. So like they throw headphones on and they're like sleeping in the class. And you go from that to where they're actually super into it. But you have to we had to go through the school of hard knocks to get them there. And then when we got it there, that's when started getting phone calls. Like I got a call from a parent, and he's like, my daughter was in your class today, and she just came home, and she's asking us to take all of her Christmas gifts back because she wants to use that money to buy stocks. Like, what did you say to her? Like, you got her interested. And like, so I talked to him briefly. He's like, do you have something? I got 2 other kids and I want them to get this too. And we were just doing these high school talks. So that's when we're like, okay, we're ready to build a product at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, but it was tough because again, I was like building this other business. So I was like 50, 60 hours. I was like, I'm not going to not kick ass at this other thing. I still want to be really good at this other thing. So this thing isn't really paying me yet. So I will be very disciplined about putting 5 hours a week in every week. And that's all I could do at the time. And by the way, some of the time I didn't even really know what I was doing. It was like, okay, how am I going to fill my 5 hours this week? Didn't even really know. And then it just gradually, you kind of stumble forward. And then you get to a point where, oh, okay, here's what the product can look like. Do the product, like, and fund it, which is hard, but you got to use your own money to, or get it. Like, there's a lot of people that get investors' money. Problem is then you lose control of it. You lose equity. So I've always been big. How do you keep ownership of it? So we used our money, and then it just got to a point where we actually had something, and it just slowly developed into what it is now. And it was kind of putting you just try to put a step forward. You don't need to have the long thing figured out. It's just the steps. Just keep making the steps. Huge, I think, for people. It's you think you have to leap forward, you don't. Just keep doing something to get you in that direction.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. That's something that we really drive home in our content, is that in the beginning, you're going to be in that phase where you don't feel like you know what you're doing. And sometimes you're going to have those days where you're like, I don't even know what to work on right now, but it's just taking those steps forward and taking action regardless of that.
Yeah.
So you guys basically would go into high schools, you'd kind of give these presentations, and from doing that, you would learn what got people excited about financial education and what put people to sleep. And then you built your DVD off of, doing that trial and error.
Yeah, you got it. Like, just gradually you build the content. Oh, that works. And then you just have an idea, or like in the root, or like when you're doing it, or usually it's someone would say something and you're like, oh, and now you'd address it, or they say something funny interacting with you. Then you're like, oh, I'm putting that in. So now that's like, we just made that way better content, or you learned a good story to tell, whatever. So yeah, for this type of product that we were building, which is like intellectual property, whatever, learning material, we found that like so useful for sure.
How long did that take you, like in going to the high schools before you had a product really that you?
We did dozens of those presentations, I would say. Like my business partner Kev, he did over 100 for sure, and I just did them around Vancouver at the time because I lived there, and I would basically call into schools, and I would get like the business teacher and get like an entrepreneurial teacher or a math teacher, anything that was reasonably relevant to. And I had been trained in sales, which, by the way, I could go on a tangent about how valuable that is when you're starting your business. Kev and I both had the ability we learned sales and like outgoing phone calls, which are huge. Still, it's a really valuable skill set to actually get the teachers to even let us come in and speak. So, because it's not like teachers are just like, can you come in, anybody, and just speak to my class? Like, you actually had to get them enticed and then get them to let you come in, right? So
so that's actually what I wanted to kind of go back and get you to explain a little bit more is, can you kind of walk us through the bit of a journey that you went on and what led you to that point where you were like, we should educate high school students on finance?
Yeah, actually, I probably should have started there, honestly. Like, great question. So was really just, we were, for lack of a better term, we just didn't know anything about how to manage money. Like, we were kind of idiots when it came to money. And here's why. Because we grew up in Canada in the school system with absolutely no education on personal finance. at all. Didn't learn it from our parents or families. Probably 90% of people watching this could relate, or plus could relate to that. So then you're left with, you just don't know any better. So my business partner, Kevin, as an example, got a credit card when he was right away, like a lot of us did, when he was 19. By age 20, Visa gave him a $20,000 credit card limit. So, which just means for people that don't know, you could spend all the way up to $20,000 on your card at any given moment. So without knowing really what happens if you do that. So he went out to a car dealership and bought a brand new car that instantly lost 20 or 30% value that day, right? He didn't know any better. And then he stopped, he couldn't make the payments. And so he destroyed his credit rating. And so we were in this environment of kind of learning how to, like, thankfully we got it, both him and I separately in life ended up in the same environment that was, there was a lot of really good learning happening because we were like a training company. And that's what we're like, we saw this void and we're like, we were learning how to be trainers. So we went out and started speaking at schools because of that.
So was that what what was your background in that kind of led you to this financial education? Like, is that what you went to school
like
for?
I just started doing it myself. Like when I was actually training it in schools, I was like a novice myself and was just learning everything. Like had bought an investment property and I was like, it would have been cool if someone had to show me how to do this. So it would have been easier if I didn't just learn the stuff the hard way. So it's like, how do you show kids how to buy, like how investment properties work? So I built the education, you just start with something and it wasn't that great. And then eventually it gets better and better and better. And like the iterations are where if you ask me, like the genius in business isn't the idea. It's not one initial idea ever that I've seen where someone just came out the gates and just nailed it and it was incredible. And it's like, wow, it's this, whatever the concept is, and it's iterating it, adjusting it, and it's like thousands of those on that then make this really special thing. And it's like the beauty of it is it's like this kind of layering that you can't even see, but it's happening when you're working on businesses and as you have a team work on it, and that's what gets you to this amazing place. But I think it's easy, like that's boring, unfortunately. People want that the sizzle, like, oh, I came up with this and it revolutionized that. But it's this boring day in, day out stuff that actually really makes the difference. And it's these small adjustments kind of to things. So there's just been so much of that with this product from, where we started from.
So can you take us through like a kind of loose overview of like from graduating high school to like the kind of career moves that you made?
Yeah. So I appreciate the question. So wasn't the brightest kid by any means, didn't have good enough grades to get a university. Wish I did. I kind of just slacked off and smoked a whole bunch of weed in high school, being honest with you. And like, I just did. And I felt like I kind of missed the boat a little bit. Like I saw my friends get into good universities, that kind of thing. And then, I started like the pain of like, I just wanted to snowboard and just have a good lifestyle. So I moved to Whistler, BC. And just pretty quickly, I was broke all the time. And I just found that that lifestyle I kind of dreamed of versus where I was, money got in the way a lot. So like you could do some of the things, but I was like, I want to open up the buffet table of life and get to do whatever you want type of deal. Like, how do you do that? And that's what kind of, it was like, what led me forward. That's what got me into sales, because I didn't have like some other cool profession that would pay me a lot of money. Like with my education, I was minimum wage until I was 23, 24. Then I got into sales. I had to learn that skill, which is tough, but learn that skill, and just started reading lots of books and stuff and applying it. Game changer once I realized the power of that, and then it gradually got good at sales, and then kind of just went from there, right? So, but that's what started. Like we were in the sales training environment when we started working on Enriched, like back in 2003. And then we didn't so we were doing high school talks from 2003. We didn't have a product. We weren't doing a lot of them. We really started working on it, I remember, in 2009, where we really started developing the product, and we had the product in 2011.
Wow.
So did you meet your business partner through that previous sales job?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was
What?
a high school dropout, by the way. That was he was working at like Burger King and stuff like that. And I think he was the assistant manager at Burger King. And then he became a mechanic, but he was like terrible at it. Mechanic's a solid profession, but he was like the worst mechanic. Like he'd cause an accident type of deal if he drove the car. That he figured, right? Like so then what he did is really interesting because he picked up. He knew he was pretty good at talking to people. So back then it was the Yellow Pages. He went to the Yellow Pages and just started calling realtors and saying, "Hey, I'll come work for free with you. I just want a chance to learn what you do." Like, because he heard real estate agents made good money. So he called like 60 of them. And then he met this guy that was starting a sales training company. Just the way it worked out, he ended up working for him. But he went from like 18 grand his first year working for that guy. Then he made 30 grand. So he wasn't making, like he was making, go further into debt money. But then he was making like 75, then he made 150, then he made $250,000 by year 5 because he gave it 5 years of not being great for 3 and then actually started reap the benefits of that. So him and I were both in that same sales training company where we met, and we learned a bunch of good skills there. And then we went to we started this company we got recruited into this company, but as partners, Dominion Lending Centers, which grew to 123 million valuation, and we sold 60% of it in 2016. Still have some equity, but we had a big exit through that business and grew that business and learned a lot through that.
And that was like a sales training business?
Dominion Lending is a mortgage broker company.
Okay.
So yeah, but the first thing we did for years was this thing called Richard Robbins International. It's still around, but it was like a sales training company for realtors.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. So you use basically the money from your exit to be able to start Enriched a little bit, like in terms of money?
No, it was just because we were still at Dominion, just growing it, but we used our money from there that we were making along the way to help us
fund it.
But like, I don't think we never went into more than about $250,000 of debt with Enriched Academy. And then it paid itself all back by I think 2014, 2015, and we've never otherwise we've never carried debt with the business.
Oh, okay.
So what do you feel like it was specifically that required 250K?
That was creating that, we had to film the product. So we went in front of like a studio audience with full cameras and everything else. And that like production back then was like $100,000, like including the studio or the space, all the filming, all the post-production. We did a bunch of streeter interviews to kind of, like we did other expert interviews. So you put all that in, then it's like, oh, but now we have to buy the DVD boxes. Right. Now we need a website. The website back then was $5,000. And you do stuff without knowing that, oh, here's how we're going to sell it. Let's do this. So we created this product called a Dragon Bank that kids would spend, save, give. So you put money in it with an app and it would track some money goes to spend, some goes to save, some goes to give. So we spent $50,000 on that, sold a bunch of units, realized you can't really make money doing that. Just you do lots of little mistakes and you're spending money and trying to figure it out. But that's probably more answer than you wanted on that, but there you go.
No, that's good. How do you feel like the business model kind of evolved for you guys, like with technology, but also just like as you refine the product more? Because you guys, I mean, obviously you went from DVDs to more digital.
Yeah, it's all digital now. And it's also, we do like one-on-one financial coaching for people now on different topics. Like if someone's like, I want to buy my own ETFs, like I want to self-direct buy stocks, and like how do I do that, or how do I buy my first house? So we do like one-on-one work with people to show them how to do that on top of like a digital platform that you would like with courses and stuff and tools that you would engage with. That's what we do now, kind of deal.
So
but very gradual. Yeah.
It kind of sounds like to me you almost have like two customers in a way. Like first is like, if you can, big organizations who want to provide financial education. So you go in, you sell them in terms of probably per student or something like that. But then secondly, it's like the long term is that student. So if they're like, oh, like I have more questions, then you have some kind of financial advisor or some sort of advice that they can purchase from you guys.
Yeah, I'd say it's like basically a client like the RCMP. They buy it, so they pay us. All their members get it for free. is essentially how it works. So they get like a digital education platform that them and their family has access to. We do lots of events and training for them. We do in-person events, so they come out as like a boot camp style, and then we do one-on-one financial counseling or coaching with them. So that's sort of the product offer that the RCMP buys, and then we track all the usage of everything and then show them the value that they're getting from that program.
Okay, so it's like so the RCMP, for this example, would purchase all of that in the package. Like that would all be, oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's how we do it. So schools basically get the digital platform, and like clients like the RCMP would get that, and they get the coaching, they get everything in there for more. It costs them more, but they get all this other stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do your packages range based on like the type of institution or per student or employee that is going to have access to it? Like how do those kind of tiers work?
It's just like so within schools, it's a flat amount per student for every student. So like if a school has 1,000, students, they're going through, they just pay X amount per student every time. So call it $85 per student. And the student then has lifetime access to the platform. And now the school bakes it into curriculum somewhere. So it becomes part of your course, wherever that is. Like we work with colleges, we work with some universities. Career colleges bake us right into the curriculum. So those are nice agreements. And then like with something like RCMP or police or like Canadian military, we're running a pilot with them right now. They basically just get it, and then it's up to us to integrate it in where they're going to actually see it and need to use it and engage it.
Mm.
Yeah,
and for like something like the student side, is it like we got 200 students this year, that are just fresh students, and then that just gets billed on top, and
we just bill them.
Every new student.
As they put students in, they get billed every month. With the financial wellness program that's within organizations, it's a monthly contract, and they're paying basically a certain amount per employee per month, and it depends on the size of the organization. So $4 kind of would be, our starting point. And then it actually gets cheaper if it's a huge organization. So like $4 per month per employee down to like, I think our cheapest one's probably $1.50 per month per employee or member.
Interesting.
So if they have thousands, like if they have 18,000 people, like that's how it gets cheaper. Right. But some of our contracts are paying us like over 7 figures a year.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the profit margins must be pretty good on that. Like
the schools are really high. Yeah. Because there's less, like you still have to integrate. Like the problem is you think for something like us, you think, oh, they bought it, they'll use it. Like the organization will use it.
Never.
They pay for it. They don't. So you actually because whoever made this decision, it was a great idea, but then doesn't mean all the people below them that are going to actually execute it are on page. So we have a team that does all that to make sure it gets used. So that's actually a lot of hard work, way more than it's funny how hard that is, but that's what we've gotten really good at. And that's what makes it sticky, where they renew with you. So we do 5-year agreements, and then they stay. And but schools, if they're like a career college, let's call it, our biggest career colleges brings in 10 or 12,000 students a year. For them, you've got to steer usage heavy, and you got to figure out all your points. Okay, here's the curriculum it should go into. Here's why. Let's do curriculum matching. Then let's follow up, make sure it's being used. What happens if an instructor, they hire a new instructor, that instructor doesn't know about Enriched, maybe, right? So you have to then it just stops getting used, right? So there's all these types of things that you got to figure out, and not to make this sound terrifying, but like all that are really complicated. But it's just like this gradual process that from a DVD box that we built to go on infomercials into integrating into all these different types of organizations. Like you just gradually learn it and get better at it.
I mean, obviously where you guys are at now, a lot of growth has occurred from the DVD box to now, right? Like in terms of when you're like serving thousands of people at the same time, right across the country. So
Yeah, we would have gone out of business a long time ago if we stuck on the DVD box, right? So, yeah.
So did you find that right now then your guys' big kind of clients are like educational institutions and then large organizations, and then you also do one-on-one clients for like personalized financial
You know
advice?
what? It's funny, Kelsey. We're pretty well out of direct to consumer, so we did that, and I could talk to you about that a lot. Like we there was a time we were spending $2 million not too long ago a year on Facebook and Instagram, pay per click ads.
Okay.
And what we found was like, so right around COVID, like right before COVID, it was like $3 to get a click on your ad on Instagram or Facebook. And it went up to like, for in our world, it went up to $20 per ad click. We were trying to generate revenue. Like some companies just want to brand themselves. They don't need to generate rev because they're a big whatever. They have a huge advertising budget. They're just trying to get the brand impressions. I think more and more of those organizations are going into those types of spaces. So they don't care if they generate rev or not. For us, we had to generate rev. So pretty quickly, the margins came out of it. And if you look at direct to consumer in general, is a tough space for that reason. So, and it's a one-time rev. Like, so we would get paid once. Someone would buy our course, and it's $600 for them to buy the course, the full course, or it was $3,000 for the one-on-one coaching. But then there wasn't a lot of recurring rev. Whereas now when we sell into these big organizations, not everyone uses it right away, but essentially they're paying like an ongoing fee to have it there. And it's up to us to keep getting usage. But as they bring in new employees and stuff like that, or as someone's in a different need now, for like they went from debt, now they're ready to buy a house. Now their needs different, so they need different advice. So we're there for them the whole way, type of deal. So it creates these long-term, ongoing agreements that so you get recurring revenue, which is the gold standard if you can do that.
Yeah, especially with like if you're reaching people when they're in high school and now they associate financial knowledge with you guys. So fast forward 10, 15 years when they're about to make a big financial decision, they already kind of have that relationship with you guys.
You got it. And it's just, but it's also like, again, like for us, we used to have like kind of 4 different divisions. We had like education, we had direct to consumer, and we had associations corps. So we sold to them. And we also had just separately coaching. Now we really just have associations corps focus and education focus. Those are our markets. And we've kind of got out of D2C, direct to consumer. And it's just, you're just spending money for revenue, but it just wasn't super profitable for us. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense because we had a lot of experience working with different online entrepreneurs, specifically in the education, whether they're teaching like what they were able to do to other people. And that was always like really the thing is like, okay, like what ads are you then running to then reach the audience that is going to outcompete everybody else, but still be profitable and not just break even, like you said, because there's a lot of people who dump $1 million on ads and then they make $1 million too. And they're like,
it's devastating.
hey, like, you know,
that's good. Then you forget about all your other things that you're paying for. It's wild, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you needed about $3 of rev for every dollar that you would spend to probably have a nicely profitable business. So if you spend $1 on ad revenue, you need to generate 3 from it, right? Just to cover all the other stuff that's going to be there. So yeah, like at 2 to 1 even, it doesn't do that well. Like, yeah, we lived it for it. Like, it was really hard to peel away from it because it was very, and the other, like, just because it was like this huge revenue generator for us, but we just bought the revenue basically. And then, the other thing that we found is that it got sort of almost desperate in that world. Like, if you look at the ads, it was very clickbait-ish, and it's like, look at me, I have a helicopter from or I fly a private plane now because of my ideas. And would you like to learn how to, like, you know, be in a private plane or whatever? And it's just like, what are you guys even talking about? Like, this is ridiculous. And it was just like, oh, like, that's exciting. So I'm going to click this. And we just didn't like that. It's just like, this is bullshit at the end of the day, right? So anyway, so there you go. I keep talking about it.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good because we've seen so many people run different ads and
That sound just like that.
yeah, I know, yeah. And I have
It
like a
works.
lot of different.
You get it clicked.
So many people will rent a Lambo for a day to film ads.
Especially like around money stuff. Like so for us, like that's the world we're competing in. It's just like that's not how people get wealthy. Sorry. Like they're not getting wealthy like quickly. It's this build. There's some things you can do that we can show you, but it's not a get rich fast thing. What really works, and that's kind of what we teach people.
So nothing about Amazon FBA in there. A bunch of affiliate marketing. You don't got anything in there?
No. Yeah. Yeah, we did a bit with affiliate stuff. It didn't. Yeah, and we could have like still been in that space and probably been a lot smarter and still be there, honestly. But still be true to our brand and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that's not the way to go, like just at all, like by any means, because it does work. But we just found these other divisions better because of the recurring piece. Yeah, it just made more sense, and like you can sell it. It's very hard to sell into a big organization. Like some of them we've chased for 5 years and don't get them, and they seem close. Like especially government stuff. There's so much bureaucracy, right? Whereas if you're selling to you, like I'm just selling right now to you guys. It's just you guys, making a decision right now. And so it's a lot, like there's not going to be 3 trustee meetings with a board and all this stuff you have to do. So that's our world now. But then when you get in, you're in. And it's a big check and it's a big monthly amount instead of, so it's like it's been worth the effort to figure it out for us.
Do you guys prefer going over like the call, like if a college or university specifically to try and get them, or more the student like body?
College, university for sure. Yeah, the student won't buy it at the end of the day because they don't have any money to buy financial education.
Right, but I mean like specifically like the associations or the unions.
Yeah, we didn't. Like that would have been actually. It's funny because we work with every other union, but with student unions, we haven't tried to sell through them. Maybe that would work.
Gotcha.
We just haven't done it.
The reason I asked that is because I was in like our student association, like I was the president, and then in Alberta, because that's where I went to college, I was, they call it fancy title, vice chair, just like kind of second role for it's called ASEC. So it was the Alberta Students Executive Council. So it was basically all the associations, and there was like, at the time we had like 165,000 students that were a part of that, like with the universities and everything. And like the one thing that blew my mind in that world was like, number one, some of these universities, student associations, unions are making so much fucking money. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
we probably should be selling
crazy. So, because when I was in that role, it was literally like, you'd balance the budget, right? And all these are supposed to be nonprofits. So like they're reaping a bunch of cash from the students from like their fees. So they reap all this cash in advance, and then they have to look with their student council and figure out how to spend all this money. And they budget some things, but like nobody ever spends it. And with like, I was at Medicine Hat, so it was like, with Des, actually funny, but it was like 8,000 to 10,000 people I think that we had that were like actually on the campus who would get billed the full fees, plus some others in like satellite campuses. And at the time, we were pulling in close to $1 million in revenue a year, just billing fees.
I know we talked to student unions and then just ended up going directly through schools. And especially like if you look at the career college world, you do have, it's not public, it's private. Right. That those schools, so you have like a business owner, they're for profit versus not for profit, like if you're at this sort of a traditional college university. So those guys can make a decision, those people can make a decision on doing something. And so like us working with universities and public colleges, we've done less work with, but K-12, it's been like either we're doing it with a district, like or the whole province is how we've been doing it.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Because I know, like, in that world, it was funny that you'd have, like, the student rep, and then, like, you'd have the college executives and stuff, and, like, you'd meet, and you'd be on the board of governors and all this stuff. And they were always looking for opportunities to be like, okay, like, how do we look good for the students, though? Like, how do we look like we're like, trying to, like, grow the students and enrich them? So, like, that might be an angle for you that you could exploit, because like that is so common where like you have the student rep and then you have the executives, and they kind of are like frenemies sometimes. Sometimes they're really good friends, sometimes they're not. And like they're always trying to like put out something in the school paper to be like, this is what we're doing for the students. Look at
Wow,
what we're
love
doing.
it. And honestly, that would be a really good way into the public space for us for the public post-secondary, like to do more, a lot more with. So yeah, I appreciate that. I might follow up with you on that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. No problem. I just thought of it. I was like, man, that would be like, I'd fucking sign up for that. And it's like, you know, you say it's okay as like the college, you know, like the president or whatever, the student guy, and then like the council is basically like, okay, like yeah, that would be amazing. Let's try this out.
Yeah, and it gets used like where we're sort of just even if it's not baked in, it's just sort of here for you as a student to help you get through your study period. And how do you know, actually get through it and not have as much financial stress, which every post-secondary student feels. Is, you know, this will be very useful for you, right? So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to university, the uni that I went to, they added in a gym membership into your tuition and you had to opt out of it. But that was kind of the argument, was like, well, we've put it in there for your benefit, so you have access to it. You know, you're already paying for it, kind of thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, same. Yeah, there was like healthcare too. That was like one thing that they had too. It was like healthcare, and you could like go in and opt out, but you had to physically go in, and it was like a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, so you guys basically went from being a two-man team, spending your own money trying to build this thing, and now you've transitioned to, you said some organizations pay you 7 figures a year. So that's how long did you said that went from 2017 to now? That like.
Yeah, I think a lot of our growth has been certainly the last 5 years, right? And now we've gotten really good at servicing those two models, because that, like us selling into the RCMP, that's only 2.5 years old right now, or 2 years old. So like those bigger organizations, we're actually still pretty new at it. Like the school model's been working for a while, like call it 6 or 7 years. But that direct to consumer, we're gradually pulled away from that. So we've sacrificed that revenue we used to get there, and we're now pulling right out of it this year, or like going into next year. So that we built up those other channels, and now that's all we're going to do. So we're going to see a lot more growth, I think, the next 5 years than we just saw the last 5, because we've been like in transition and figure out our market mode.
Right. So you went from having 2 people putting up that capital of your own money to put together DVDs and build these trainings. So what do kind of your business expenses look like nowadays, now that you're not building DVDs?
Like $4 million a year right now, like including like all of our staff and stuff like that. Like we're profitable. We're not like amazingly profitable right now, because we're just reinvest everything. And we have like basically we have 25 people that work with Enriched. If you include our tech's offshore. So that's different, and they're not all 100% dedicated. But I mean, if you looked at that team, we would have 35 people on the team right now. Yeah, but we've just been reinvesting back into the business. Our education line, like we look at it, like I'm looking, like I have our financials are here. Our education line, including all the expenses, is profitable, but we kind of track that separately, almost like it's its own business. The division that sells into companies actually loses money right now, but it's also newer. So it's getting to that point where it's going to start making money, but you got to invest a lot into it to kind of get it there. It's almost like a separate business. So that's how we run it. We have kind of separate, like it's all in the same financials, but we treat each one separately.
Okay.
Which has been good. It just helps you make smart choices. Like, so, yeah. And I think just to simplify it a little bit, I think it's just so important to, whatever your idea is, to start getting sales, some kind of sales right away. Like, how do you monetize it pretty fast? Like, I know it's some web things, you're just trying to get lots of usage, right? The name of the game, you know, if you watched whatever, the Facebook movie, it was don't sell ads because it's not cool or whatever. Like, we're just trying to get usage. Most businesses, I get that there's those out there, but most businesses like that, or ideas, like you should just try to, as quickly as you can, actually generate revenue of some kind, because that's going to keep your lights on, right? And make, like, that's the oxygen to make the whole thing keep going and get to that point where you can really do well with it. Like, you got to get the money coming in quick though. Like, I have a buddy of mine, and he's just constantly generating, he's constantly getting investor money. and he's really good at getting investor money, and he wants me to invest, as an example. And I'm like, bud, show me the revenue in this thing. Like, show me where you're making money with this thing. And good investors, that's what they're going to be really interested in. They're not going to like the concept. Oh, here's a whole bunch of money to hopefully develop this idea. Like when you're servicing the money, that's where you make better ideas or better iterations quicker, because you're just trying to be better at getting that money, which sounds like greedy or something, but that's really the nature of creating a product. You got to get it out to the market, get it selling. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just get the thing selling or get someone buying it quick.
So did you look at when you first started with the DVDs, like, did you look at that mortgage broker kind of side of things? Because you already had some ties in there and you're like,
yeah,
hey,
we had these guys as clients on this with this other business, and we were doing events for them. So we do training events for them as a franchise owner. And so then we just said, hey, check out this new product we had, and we had a price on it. Why don't you guys buy it for your clients as a closing gift? Like when you help them with their mortgage, now that you can give something to their families and the kids on money. They loved it. So they would buy like 100 units at a time. And so if they did, we got like a $6,000, I think it was $60 a box. That was our first ever sale.
Nice.
Someone bought 100 units. So it was like $6,000. So we made some of the money back on the filming, right?
Yeah.
Small amount
Not
of
even
it
close
back.
to all of it. And then we
crazy.
we went around and we're selling in front of financial planners. So we went in front of like a financial planner event, and they would let us get up there. We tell the Dragon's Den story, then sell the box. And so we just started like running to my car to get more DVD boxes and running in the room and getting registration, like getting forms like with their credit card number. That's how the thing started.
All right.
Nice.
And how'd you guys do on Dragon's Den?
We had all five bid.
Wow. Did
So
you
we
take
could
any
have gone
deals?
Kevin O'Leary on his own, or the other 4 dragons. And at the time, we were like, I don't think the product was creating the dragons of tomorrow was the tagline. And we were like, we don't think a lot of parents want their kid to grow up to be like Kevin O'Leary, so let's go with the other 4 dragons. And so we ended up working with Jim for Living and a guy named Bruce Croxon, who's like a tech guy. He's an investor in tech, business, like small tech startups. And that's what he does now. He has something called Round 13 Capital, and they just invest in tech startups, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much did you have to give up in equity to
We didn't.
get off
We
board?
didn't want to. We had money, right? We were fortunate. We had some money. We had pretty good income at the time. Kevin and I each separately, and so we were able to self-fund it. But so we just turned it into a royalty deal. So every time we made a sale, they got a cut of each sale, which was way better for us.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You don't want to give up equity. It's like it's like you have to. I get a lot of people. You have to, but as little as possible. You're gonna probably regret every % you gave up. Is my guess for most people at some point. Like where it makes sense, and because I've gone through this before now, where we sold a business and so I've gone through like where you package a business and sell it, and Dominion sold for 123 million valuation at the time, so it was a good, like a serious valuation with a lot of profit, and it's a $350 million valuation business today. So I've seen all that, the inner workings of it, and yeah, like really the true advantage to giving up equity is where someone can help grow you. So if you sell to them, you're going to lose some control or whatever, but you're going to get some cash. But better yet, they're going to like 10x your business. So they're going to be able to grow your business way quicker than you could on your own. So if they 10x it, even if you gave up a whole bunch of equity, that equity you kept is now worth dramatically more than whatever you gave up, right? So that's the best reason, honestly, if you can do it that way. That's the best reason.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. So what's your kind of goal with Enriched in the sense, like you guys just keep generating the monthly recurring revenue in a sense?
Yeah, like
that
honestly,
side of things,
believe it or not, it's like, because I remember, but when you get to, like when I was young and starting out and realizing what I was doing didn't work to be successful, and I was making minimum wage and didn't love it, right? And I was like how cool would life be where you just don't have to work anymore and you just do whatever you want every day and don't have to, how cool would that be? And like, and then you get there, which we were able to, Kevin and I were able to get there, and you're like, actually, working is really important. Like being productive and focused on, and I remember hearing people say that and being like, that guy's crazy. Why would you keep working when you don't need to anymore? Like I didn't understand it. And then you get there and it's like because it actually keeps you sane and like that kind of thing. So at this point with this now, like it's really just the challenge of like I love to create a whole bunch of millionaires within Enriched Academy, which we've definitely done already, but a lot more like of our team, and just change a whole bunch of lives. But then like go through the challenge of like trying to take your business from the first sale to where you make $100,000 a year in revenue, to where you make $1 million a year in revenue, to where you do $100 million in revenue is so hard. And like, it's this wicked self-evolution that has to happen in that process. Like who you are when you made that first sale to then when you made $100,000 that first year to then when you made $1 million the first year in sales, you're very different. Your skill set's different. There's this, you're gradually getting pulled forward by it. So you can go be like, the way I looked at it, you can go be a monk and like do self-actualization and meditate and work on your internal self. And that's fantastic. And that's beautiful. But you could also do it through business, like, because you have to evolve yourself to like build this huge business. If you're an egocentric, a bit of an asshole or whatever, you're going to get limited out in what you can do with your business because people aren't going to want to be on your team. Right? Like if you're not doing it on anything close to on your own, you need this wicked, unbelievable team of really smart people to gradually get it there. Right? So just have a lot of respect for people that have been able to gradually build these really big businesses. And I think that's the coolest thing now. So how do you do that and just gradually evolve yourself in the process? That's really the goal. And it's really also, it's like my benchmark would be 100 million in annual rev. So that's the goal right now.
Where are you guys at now?
Not even close, right? Like we're like 4.5 million, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like whereas
like for the year or like in general?
Sorry, say again.
Oh, sorry, like for like yearly or like in total so far?
No, yearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And like Dominion's like, as an example, Dominion is very profitable, that other business I was part of, but they're like 70, 80 million a year in rev with that kind of valuation that I said. And, but they're just because they're very profitable. So yeah, anyways.
I mean, it sounds like with what you guys had done at Dominion, you really, 50, 60 hours a week consistently, and then putting in 5 in here. I mean, it sounds like you really grinded and tried to squeeze as much out of that opportunity as you could. It paid off for you in terms of the exit, and now you're like, oh, okay, so now I can like not relax. I don't want to say relax, but like focus on just Enriched and be like, well, let's grow that for fun.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's the idea. And like when we stuck around Dominion, like when let's say we went on Dragon's Den, we were still year and made that first sale and stuff like that. We were years at Dominion still, even after we did that and had a product. And it's funny because there was this guy that had the same equity stake as I had, and he got bought out of Dominion. And if he had us, like in 2013, if he had us stuck around for 3 more years, he would have got 10x more money because the company just got way more valuable. And then we shopped it through private equity, and we had all these bids. Like people were like, yeah, we'll give you this much money and this much up front. And you're just like, oh my God, is this real? And like, so living through that, but this guy, he bailed too fast and didn't get that huge payday where he never would have had to work a day for the rest of his life. And instead, like, kind of had just enough money to buy a house and stuff like that type of deal, and still good, but not like, but he just bailed too fast. So you got to be careful not to do that along the way. Like, it's anyway.
Got to keep consistent with that. Why do you think he bailed? Were you guys like going through a tough time, or he just wanted something else?
Keep growing, and it's challenging when you're on a team putting a business together, and it's challenging, and you want out at some point, but maybe Like, and he just didn't time it well. And we, like, I don't know why we stuck around, because there was times where we were like, oh, maybe we should just go full bore over here now. But it just didn't quite feel right. And we just stuck around. And then it kind of then felt like the time. And I think that was kind of lucky, honestly, why we didn't. It was definitely partially luck. So it's hard. You don't know for sure what's going to happen with that stuff. But yeah.
So you'd mentioned you were doing like 50 to 60 hour weeks at your full-time job, and then you'd basically put, a solid 5 hours a week into this, kind of building it. You were investing your own money. You are a family man, like you're married, you have kids. I know that your kids weren't around at that time, I don't believe, but how did you kind of balance that in like working your full-time job, doing more than 40 hours, and then also building your kind of dream on the side? So I think that's that's a reason why a lot of people never get into business, because they feel like they're too busy.
Yeah, it's legit concern, right? For sure. It's I haven't really seen, like, I want to say I've seen a lot of people go out and kind of put 30 hours a week, like the Tim Ferriss stuff where you do 4 hours and you build this 80 grand a month in whatever he said in his book, right? And I just, and you have this team that kind of does it for you. I just haven't really seen that work too much, unfortunately, myself in real life. I think you can do it. I think, hey, can you build an amazing business in 20 or 30 hours a week? I think you absolutely can. But mostly I've seen people that go out and they're putting like a lot of time into it because it's your baby, and people aren't going to be as invested in it as you are. Like your team, you bring the best team you can. Like what we've done, but they're still not going to be quite as invested as you are. What we've done is we have team members, like key team members, that we give a revenue share or a profit share. So it's like they're like an owner, but they don't have the downside of like what happens if you lost 200 grand that month. They're not feeling that. I am, or our owners are. But how do you give that otherwise then that big upside, right? So they feel like an owner and they're out there like when they don't have a ceiling. So I think we both at Dominion, we did a good job of that, and at Enriched, where I feel like we've done a good job of that. So you have people that are busting their butt to make it as good as they can, and whether you're there or not. I think that becomes more key if you don't have the hours to put into it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what do you focus, I'm curious, like what do you focus on now within Enrich? Like what's your kind of, main role?
It was, I was COO because that's what I was at Dominion. But now I'm going back into biz dev. And just because that's probably the weaker part of our business is like just bringing more and more sales in. So I'm helping going in and systematizing it. I would give 2 books. If anyone's gone this far on this podcast and they're still watching this right now, I'll give you like the best books ever for building a business right now. So E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And the other one's called Work the System. I need to look up, going blank on who the author is, but it's called Work the System. And essentially it's like how do you grow like a business, like and make it where it's scalable and it's not just you trying to grow the business. How do you make it so you have this big team and everyone's happy and all that kind of stuff? Those 2 books, brilliant, game-changing books. Like the Work the System model, we're applying it through the entire Enriched Academy right now. And sort of the overview of it is this. It's like if you take any role within the company, there's various tasks that are done in that role, and it's documenting step 1 all the way through to step however many on how to run that task, like in screenshotting it, like everything, like here's how to do this one task. So it's like you're documenting your entire business, all the processes that make it from A to Z. So we're doing that within the business right now, like right across the whole thing, Enriched, but I'm doing that especially within biz dev. And then because what happens if you follow a certain system, you get pretty consistent results, right? If you're doing it kind of different every time. But the other thing is then you can scale, you can hire people, you know how long things take, if they're efficient or not, because you can see them. You can start seeing ways to make things more efficient, that kind of thing. But anyway, really good. Both of those are really good reads. I would start with E-Myth, then I would read the Work the System. But if you really want to see how to grow a business, those are brilliant books.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot as well from other entrepreneurs, just in terms of like how adding those systems really can help you scale up. Because especially what you're saying earlier, which was if you can focus on getting some revenue and you focus on sales, you're proving the model, you're finding out what's the more profitable angle to go with, and then you start, systemizing your business in the sense of step-by-step strategies. That opens you up to be able to hire really good talent who can follow that and execute on that vision for you, and you can scale it up much faster than you would yourself.
You got it. And if you can develop sales skills, then you can make your cash register ring. That's the other thing. Or, so if you don't, if you're uncomfortable selling, right, then like for you to hire, you can hire that, but I think it's really that like having a really strong biz dev person and getting them to come in and sell your concept that's not really proven, very hard to do. Like the fact that we could pick up the phone and like get into like back in the day, we're like get in front of an audience, like we call financial advisors, like someone that owned a financial advisor group, be compelling enough that they would bring us out to go speak in front of all their advisors, then be compelling enough in front of them to actually get a whole bunch of people to buy your product. That skill set was like, it was why we were able to keep this thing with the lights on. If we didn't have that and we just, we have this really good program, no one's going to know about it because we don't know how to get the word out properly. Sales gives you the ability to get the word out. So the good news is, just like everything, like you can read 5 sales books and then start practicing it, and you're kind of skip ahead of the line because most people don't do that. And there's really good material out there where you get someone's 30 years of their life in a book that you can read in 5 hours and you get all their best ideas and apply it, right? That's the beauty of, but I just think that's absolutely an amazing skill set to have as an entrepreneur like that.
What's your, you guys like hitting people up with, like in terms of the pitch, like when you're going to these companies, like how do you kind of get in there and be like, this could really help your employees out?
This is, I think, really important. Great question, Alex, is don't just email, don't just LinkedIn people, call. And people are afraid of the phone. Like the younger generation now is afraid of the phone. And they're like, why? Because they're going to pick, you don't know what you're going to say. You're probably going to get some rejection. We don't like that. So we just, I'm never doing that again. I got shot down. How about you just get better at it to a point where they'll listen to you and you're compelling enough that they want to hear more and you get a presentation in front of them, right? Or whatever. So for us, especially selling into businesses, really, really important. Like, how do you get their attention? So you have to learn, like, and if you just send an email, you should see my inbox as somebody that's an owner of a business. I get 5 a day. Everything sounds great. You should read these emails. They sound fantastic. They're going to solve all of our problems. No one ever calls. So I just ignore. But if you call, I will listen to you, especially if you're persistent. You keep leaving me voicemails and stuff like that are very professional. You're coming at me from different angles. It sounds valuable. You're going to get a meeting with me, and no one does that anymore. So yeah, so that's what we do. So it's a combination of send some emails, LinkedIn, then actually call them, leave a really good voicemail, and then come at them a different angle, and then be persistent enough that you can't be ignored. Because like if you just leave one voicemail, maybe they'll call back. They're not gonna, probably. It's the series of doing this that gets the attention. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
We just have a couple more questions. Are you okay for time? I don't
want no worries. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, I mean, Enriched Academy is very established now. It's not what you've done is not something that a beginner could just jump into and start doing exactly what you guys are doing. But I'm curious, when you first made that shift from DVDs to now digital, I don't know how long ago that was, but I mean, again, was that
2014.
2014. Okay. Yeah. So was that still mainly just you and Kevin at that point, or had you already really started expanding? Like, what did your kind of costs and tools to run that business look like when you first made that pivot?
Yeah, thanks for that, Kelsey. It was just Kevin and I, and then I think in 2012 we hired my mom to do our bookkeeping, and she ended up kind of being like our administrator kind of deal. And she was with us until about 2 years ago, actually. But then we had a kid that watched our DVD box that called us and was just like, or no, he sent a video and he was like, here's all the cool things about your program. And then like you expect, oh, cool, we're just going to hear how good the program is here. He did that for about 2 minutes. Then for 10 minutes, he told us how lousy the program was and all the things that we needed to fix on it. So we're like, Kev sent me the video, my business partner, and he said, what do you think? I'm like, let's hire this kid. Like, love it. Right. So we brought him in, and like he was 17. Now he's 26 or something. But he was 17, his first real job, kind of like real career job. He came and worked with us. And so he was inexpensive because he was a young kid, needed to learn stuff. So we just gradually hired out the team, and then we've, hired a lot more in the last 5 years. But the first bunch of years, it was just bare bones. Like you're doing a lot of everything yourself. And you kind of need to. And like, that's why I say that E-Myth book is amazing, or that Work the System, because then it shows you how do you then bring somebody in to a position so that they now do that. And they're going to be better than you, presumably, because they're going to come in and just do that, or just do this bucket of things. But it helps you understand what those buckets look like, where you can start to hire people in to do things that you were doing. The last thing to hire, for most, like the last thing you want to get out of it is biz dev and marketing, because that's going to be the lifeblood of your business. It's like the most important part. So,
I mean, it sounds like to me, you guys have like really built like a cold outbound demon machine here that you've just trained up.
It's
and
going to be so much better, man.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes so much sense why you would have stopped the direct-to-consumer side of things, because you would have had to focus on advertising and ads and creative, and now you just focus on, well, let's just like give some rev share to some kids who want to just dial and get some business for us.
Yeah, like, but it's tough to find then people that are going to actually work out and stuff like that, because you can go through a lot of folks that just don't work out, and for different reasons. But if you figure out how to have compelling marketing online, that's a very useful tool for direct reach out as well. But then it's just that skill set of kind of, and really it's just having conversations. Like salespeople, if you're good, it's just having conversations with people, knowing that they probably just want to get off, if you're calling into a business, let's call it, they don't know who you are. Like you're catching them off guard. So it's just, how are you interesting for 15, 20 seconds, get through an objection or two. But for us now, mostly we're just name dropping. It's like, here's who we're working with in your space. So we're doing it very warm. So if you get into a certain market and you do a really good job for them as your first client, that they could then leverage you into a lot of other folks. Like just do a really good job. Just get that one client even and crush it for them. Get real revenue coming in. If they don't buy it, they're not going to take it seriously. Like certain people are like, what if you just gave it to them at first? Don't, because they're not going to take it seriously. And you're not going to show that it's not real until you get someone to pay for it. So even if it's a smaller amount that you plan on charging, get some rev, kill it for them, get them excited, and then you can leverage that into your market, which is, we're doing that better now than we used to. So anyway.
And are you guys, I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but you guys said you're shutting down the direct to consumer, so you won't offer courses and stuff anymore?
Yeah, we still do, but it's all through these other two offerings, the schools and the associations and companies. So,
right. But I can't go on and just like buy it off your site anymore, right?
You can right now, but we're not doing any outreach whatsoever. Like we're not spending any money anymore on any type of digital ads or any campaign whatsoever. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you took off the platform or anything. Someone could technically come in, buy it, and see it, but it's not like you're trying to use it to like market it.
And we could, and there's money there, but it's when you have a team and you're not huge, you only have so much bandwidth, and every second you spend time somewhere is a second you didn't spend somewhere else. And you just need to be really world class at anything. You got to be so focused on it, right? So if you're splitting focuses, you got to be very careful. That's the hard thing I think any entrepreneur goes through. It's like, it's saying no to things. Like you have to say no to a whole bunch of things in order to be good at some other things. So, and you see all these opportunities and you're like, you just want to say yes to everything, but that's just going to, water down something else that you're doing that you needed to focus on. So it's very, like, how do you know what to focus on? It's very tough to know.
And
Yeah.
do you have like one? Sorry, I keep asking questions here. I'm like,
No, no.
"Oh, tell me about it. Do you do
Thanks.
you do you have like one like main product? So like the schools and the organizations, and even if someone came in and bought offline, like is it all the same product pretty much, just depending on the access level, depending on the deal you work out with the association?
It's
or-
pretty similar, Alex. Like for the schools, it would be very similar product, like depending on the grade and stuff like that. For like when we sell into companies and associations, very similar product. They just pay different depending on how many members or employees they have.
Okay, so
Otherwise,
you
the offer is
basically
basically uniform. Yeah.
right, yeah. That's what I was kind of getting at, because it's like you're mainly like these divisions that you've created. It sounds like they're all just leading to the same product.
Yeah.
It's just more like, okay, like what's our acquisition channel going to be, or how are we going to get clients, basically.
Yeah, you got it. So
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Gotcha.
it's interesting.
Okay. So speaking of bandwidth, how do you find, I know you said that you were the COO, you're going back to business dev now. So what does your kind of daily work or routine look like these days?
Oh, I love it. Great question. Like, so when I actually went from being a minimum wage employee, and like I always did things like exercise, but I would go at like 10 o'clock at night, and I found it really hard to get up in the morning for college because I would, you're all fired up after the gym. I was going to bed at 2. I'd cut my first class. I just wouldn't go to it. So I was living that lifestyle, didn't have a serious job. So something I changed, and it hurt for a couple of weeks, was go to the gym first thing in the morning. So I'm up usually I'm up at 5:45. Sometimes I get up before that, go to the earlier class, but I go to the gym at 6. And then then I do the morning stuff. I'm sitting at my desk by 8. And then basically working till 6 and do like a walk with my dog, lunch. I find that's brilliant just to keep you kind of fresh, like break the day up. So I do that in the afternoon or like after lunch, but otherwise I'm just sort of working, but very, very time blocked. I use time blocks huge, and like it took me a while to get there, but I'm to-do list for the week. So I have a goal list for the year. I have a goal list for my life. Then I break it down to a goal list for the year. What I'm trying to move forward for my life goals that year, and then I break it down into weekly goals, and then I basically time block in every week my weekly goals that are leading to my yearly goals that are leading to my life goals. So we actually do an hour and a half training Rich does on how to be productive and how to kick ass in your career, basically. And we teach this piece. We teach how to goal set and how to schedule your day in a really productive way. So, but time blocking and committing to that, whatever that focus is in that time, is so valuable. And then actually sticking with it, obviously. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I actually literally just this week started re-implementing that back into my life, and I feel like it just helps a lot with overthinking, because then you're like, okay, if I'm not in the time block where I'm answering emails, I'm not even thinking about emails. It's not the time for it.
Because otherwise all that noise is going to come in and steal your time away from what you need to be working on, like to move stuff forward. So I think having that to-do list every week, like I have a few people I do this with, but every week I write out the list. It's a lot of consistencies week to week, right? And sometimes someone will come at me and be like, "Hey, I need this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get back to you." Like, I'll schedule them and I'll put them into my next week's list. I'll say, "Yeah, I'm all booked up this week," and usually it's not urgent where I have to move stuff around this week, if that makes sense. So you get smarter. So urgencies keep coming at you. It's like, no, I can't right now. This is my week. It's set. You guys, as an example, when we booked this, I hadn't done that yet. So, and you called me right before I'm going away on a trip, and I have a bit more flexibility. So I'm like, yeah, let's just do it tomorrow. So usually I would have been like, yeah, the earliest I can do is sometime next week, right? Or something like, as an example.
That's
so
what I was expecting.
Yeah. We were talking. I was at the gym at the time, because it was like, okay, yeah, like, we're gonna do one with Jay. Yeah, that's gonna be good. Okay, tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay, like
it was either this
awesome.
or a month from now or something. So I was like,
hey, thanks so much for making time for us. I'm sure this isn't the most ROI on your time here.
Oh, I love it. It's great. I love it. Like very few people, like if you're watching this, or for you two, Kelsey and Alex, is that have this curiosity, like, and we'll dig in and look at this stuff. But just, and more, I think young people are looking for, or just anybody, you're just looking for an alternative from just going out and working that job. And it's brilliant if you can figure this out, and it's so rewarding. The journey that you're going to start yourself on, and I think it's just moving gradually forward, not being too impatient. It's just it's being pretty stubborn about it to make it work, and but just do it in a way that you're not gonna go hungry and have to move back in with your parents or whatever else if you're already moved out, like that kind of thing. So that's what's tricky. How do you carve it into the rest of your life when you're first building out a concept, and then making the transition to full time. Just make sure there's money there. I didn't do it until I was able to walk into six-figure income. I didn't walk away from, a really high income but I was able to at least step into a six-figure income from day one when I moved over here. And and I don't know that, depending on your lifestyle, but I don't think enough people do that. I think they just sort of go cold turkey, and that can really hurt. So
yeah. Puts a lot of pressure on it, and then you maybe make not as good decisions. Yeah,
totally. You just run out of time because you're just burning through cash when you're all your expenses are still there, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I've done that before so many times where I'm like, you know what, I can make it work, and then you get some cash flow, and then it was inconsistent, and you're like, yeah, I should have waited longer. That was stupid. What am I doing here? I know, as soon as I got out of college, I was basically studying for my LSATs. And then I was like, I want to learn some business stuff. And then I inherited some money too, and I was bartending, and I was like, I'm going to move to Winnipeg. That's going to be where I figured it out. And then I just ended up sitting there just anxious as shit because I had trying to make something work, and I was paying for some mentorship, and then I had loaned out some money for real estate investing and stuff, and people were they're always late, you know what I mean? When you invest your money out, they're never on time. So I was just kind of I'll get a good return, but I was also trying to look at how to increase income and just stress it. And I know Kelsey and I, even just in some of the business that we've done, it's you got highs and you got lows. And I really appreciate your advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Just move forward. That, because I thought about that a lot, because it's really hard when you start working on a concept and there's no path. It's not oh, do this and then do that and then do this. It's not there. So you just gotta, I remember just sitting there and I'd have a time block back then to work on Enriched. And I'd just sit there and be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do right now. But then something would occur eventually, and then it's okay, I can do that. So you start doing that thing. And some of the time I was doing stuff that later I was like, that was a complete waste of time. But whatever, you gradually, the picture will take shape if you stay focused on that thing. And you just keep taking those steps, get the money to come in as soon as you can. And then it will, then you really start to get your direction. Until the money comes in, you're definitely less efficient. As soon as you get the first money, you're going to service that money with your time, and you're going to start spending your time really well, because that's what's going to lead to more money a lot quicker than just a theory or something like that. So,
okay. So on that note, my last question is, we always like to ask, you already mentioned that you use time blocking for productivity. I always like to ask people if you have kind of a habit that you've adopted, or any kind of weird habit that you feel has actually benefited you a lot in business, or just even in your life in general.
Yeah, just never stop being a student, reading or audiobooks. I know, or podcasts, right? But I'm a big fan of always reading, always audiobooks. The answers are there. Just here, it's there's people that spend, I think it's amazing that you can get 30 years of someone's life wisdom in a 5-hour book. And if you don't know the topic, you're 5 books away from being way better than most of the world, 95 percentile, just by going down, 5 percentile or whatever, just by reading a bunch of books or on that topic. That's it. It's self-education. Just don't stop.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Jay. I know Kelsey and I both look up to you quite a bit. I know Des does as well. But when we came and visited you guys, you were very gracious and abundant, and we're like, oh, this is what we want to live like. And so we really do look up to you, and been thinking about you a lot. Not to be in a creepy way, but just let's
hang out
on our dream board. We got your face now.
Yeah. Come back to Kelowna, and we'll hang out. Come back next summer, or whatever.
Yeah.
Loved it. That was a blast. You guys, that was a really good boat ride too, right? So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll jump off that cliff next time too. You know?
sounds good.
Stand up on the skis.
Oh yeah, get on
The skis, we'll get you on the skis for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate your time, and I hope you have an awesome time on your motorcycle trip.
Thanks. Pleasure. Thanks for the great questions, guys, and the
enjoy it.
First,
No
problem.
knowledge.
And just one last thing, where do you feel like people could find you for Enriched and stuff? Where would you like people to go?
You know what? Jay at enrichedacademy.com. So JAY at enrichedacademy.com. Yep.
All right, so
Okay.
people got to call you. They got to email.
Yeah,
Get
We
your
gotta
attention.
send you multiple voicemails and be persistent.
You're gonna find my social media presence is pretty weak, so it's just
Nice.
yeah.
Love it.
All
All
right.
right. Take care, Jay.
See you later.
Thanks
Have a
again.
good one. Thanks.